Hello, my name is Olivia Heine, and today we're going to talk about the feminine art of success. When I was 19, I took my first solo trip where I spent time backpacking around Scotland. It was a significant yet scary moment for me. It was the first time that I was going off to do something completely by myself and for myself. But I had this feeling deep within that I had to do this, that this was very important. It was the first time that I had truly begun making decisions for myself, and I really had to begin trusting myself. I was a classic good girl growing up in a perfectionist household. I thrived off of people praising me for being good, and I learned to look externally for what was expected of me. In the process, I had completely lost connection to myself. And as a result, I was incredibly indecisive because I didn't trust myself to make the right call. Mostly because I had spent most of my life learning to make choices for other people. In Edinburgh, I found a little eclectic shop where I purchased a postcard that said, "There's a great plan for your life. Trust." Cliche, maybe, I know, but it felt very significant at the time. Like I was coming back to claiming this trust deep within myself, this feeling that I could lean into that trust, that I didn't need to control it all, and that it wasn't all on me. Little did I know that I was and had been living in and out of a burnout cycle for years, and I was about to embark on a journey that would change the course of my life. In my work as a burnout and NLP success coach, I focus on how we work in order to align how we are spending our time. The way we do one thing is the way we do everything. So, seeing as work makes up 1/3 of our lives, it seemed that this was the place to start reorganizing and readjusting if we wanted to be living more fulfilling, aligned, successful, and abundant lives. In our Western patriarchal society, we are really good at working hard. This is what we're taught from an early age in order to be integrated as productive members of our society. There is one formula for success. Work hard to prove that you want it, so that when you get the results, you can prove that you deserved it. This concept of proving your worth to show that you are good enough creates a self-sacrificing society where we disregard our own needs, desires, and inner guidance in order to feel like we are enough based on external expectations. As a result, we work hard as a means to control our results so that we can control being accepted, and to control how we are viewed and seen by others so that we can make sure that we are seen as valuable. This is my story too. Although I grew up in a family that was incredibly loving, there were also phases of chaos, uncertainty, and fear. This meant normalizing chaos and fearing calm. If there was calm, it only meant that soon would come the next stormy situation. Unknowingly, I began taking on the narrative that the more I can control, the safer I will feel. What this results in for so many of us and as a society is a lifestyle where we are addicted to chaos because doing, going, and being busy feels safer than slowing down. In the process, we become overworked, burnt out, exhausted, fatigued, and physically ill. And so we arrive at what we believe to be the root of our problems. We don't have enough time and we don't have enough energy. Have you ever said these two phrases to yourself? Maybe you even said them this week. Maybe you even said them today. The time management and productivity industry will tell us that better strategies will fix the procrastination, the overworking, and the lack of time and energy, when in reality, it just gives us one more thing to fall short on. This is the cycle of the unhealthy masculine way of working. The masculine represents our action-taking energy, our external achievements, and the systems and structures that we need in order to show up consistently and execute to get the results that we want. The feminine and masculine that I will be referring to in this talk are not gendered. The spectrum exists within each of us, and we need our own unique balance of both of these to show up and create sustainable balance and success. We could just as well call this the yin and the yang energy, but for clarity purposes, I'm going to be using the terminology masculine and feminine. The thing is, the patriarchal society values the masculine, especially in the sphere of work. This energy is very important when tapping into taking action, but not random action that is driven by lack and fear. This is what happens though when we show up to please the societal expectations that we have been conditioned to work within. We believe that if we haven't reached the outcome we want yet, we just need to do more and work harder. However, this is fear and lack-driven action. When we really think about it, we can logically see how crazy or silly this sounds. It's like stalking your love interest all day, every day, believing that this will make them love you. It's like, no, this is probably just going to get you a restraining order. But this is what society teaches us to do more and to push harder if you want the result bad enough. The core problem is that we have been taught to feel such shame for not being able to fit into this one way of working, when in reality, it is not the only way. It is just the one way that we have been told is acceptable and the one way that we get praised for. The shame that is perpetuated by the system of work, where we can never do enough, where we're always falling short, and somehow we are still lacking this valuable piece of ourselves that we think is missing and that we believe will make us worthy, leads to burnout. Shame perpetuates burnout. We are disconnected from ourselves, our needs, and our desires, which keeps us in a cycle of needing to prove our worthiness through our work. Because the patriarchal society values the masculine over the feminine, we have been taught to largely reject the feminine, especially when it comes to work and success. The thing is, though, we are really here to experience the journey, and that is what the feminine teaches us. The feminine is the energy of creativity, of big picture visions, of listening to your intuition as your decision-making tool, of slowing down and resting, of listening to your body and incorporating your body into how you are working, in creating space to experiment outside of strict structures. The feminine values the journey over the destination, which just doesn't cut it in our goal-oriented masculine work culture. I played by the rules of patriarchal success and was not successful. I stayed stuck in a cycle of burnout for years. I lived in my masculine, executing, planning, and working as a means to control as much as I could. I felt safe there, but I now realize that this was a false sense of safety. The funny thing was, I wouldn't have known to define it as burnout at the time because it just wasn't bad enough. It's like you sprained your ankle and it's all swollen and blue, but because you can still hop on your other foot to the kitchen to get food and then you don't have any bones sticking out, somehow you think, no, I'm totally and 100% fine. However, looking back, I can see that I was in toxic relationships, I was living with anxiety, and I was struggling with sleep and fatigue. I was constantly getting sick. I was dealing with digestive issues that had no explanation. And I was really struggling to make decisions or deal with situations on my own. This is where my journey of incorporating, or rather reincorporating, the feminine began. This journey that started after my first solo trip, unknowingly at first, was the journey that began calling me back to the feminine. 3 years after my first solo trip, I was at a yoga retreat in Greece, and I was having a conversation with a teacher who said to me, I don't think you're here on a retreat. I think you're here on a recovery. This was the turning point where I finally faced the fact that I had been running my body into the ground, trying to live up to these expectations. I was burnt out. More importantly, I realized I was so burnt out because I had been rejecting myself. I was neglecting my own needs because I had been devaluing them due to what the patriarchal way of working had taught me, which is that the external was more important than the internal. Incorporating the feminine into how I was working led me back to myself. And I began right then and there during that recovery retreat. I began learning the language of my body, incorporating her into how I was working, and learning to listen, to slowly trust my intuition again. I began trusting myself again then because I was learning to listen to my own needs and actually responding to them. So I was showing myself that I was important, that I was worthy, and that my needs were deserving of being valued and heard. When I started my business, I realized that I was blocking myself from success because I was so scared of burning out again. So I began redefining what I believed I had to do in order to be successful. I defined success based on the internal values, based on my inner feminine, as opposed to the external masculine-led expectations. I became fascinated with the feminine, with everything from cycle syncing to ancient ancestral and indigenous wisdom, to the power of pleasure, and of course, how that all played into work and rest. The more I uncovered, the more I began practicing it in my own life, and the clearer it became that there was this whole untapped framework for success and productivity that wasn't being talked about, and that was actually being completely rejected. So, what is the feminine art of success, and how does it work for you? The feminine art of success is about creating a holistic approach to work and success that is unique to you, because all of us are different. And so we need to throw out this one-size-fits-all approach. This is what my work has now boiled down to, and what I teach and coach hundreds of women on. When you begin leading with the feminine first, you are able to reincorporate a healthy masculine energy as well. Rejected feminine energy means solely showing up in your masculine, which means having zero balance. The gifts of the feminine are alignment, ease, magnetism, and receptivity. These gifts teach us that the purpose of life is to experience pleasure, enjoying the experience and not just the outcome, which would be the masculine. This then informs the gifts of the masculine. When you ground yourself in the feminine first, you take action from a place of clarity and ease rather than lack and fear. Being in the feminine is the gift of receptivity. If we are constantly giving, and being solely in our masculine because we are doing all of the time, then we don't create space to actually receive. In the law of energy, if like attracts like, and if we believe that we are not enough and what we are doing is not enough, what we are going to get is more lack, more of the same, which leads to more burnout. When we work from the unhealthy masculine, we work from a place of lacking inner trust. We believe we need to prove ourselves in order to be worthy. This results in us living from a place of lack. Somewhere deep down, we believe we are still not enough. So doing is going to compensate for that. The feminine teaches us, though, that we are already worthy, and to sit in a place of deep trust and to take action from this place. In this scenario, you are taking action from a place of abundance, from already feeling worthy. And ideally, this is how you want to feel and how you are going to feel when you reach your goal. When we work from this space, the key benefit is that you are actually able to create more success with more ease and by doing less. The biggest reason for this is that you allow your nervous system to come back to rest and digest due to the fact that you're tapping into pleasure, play, and rest when you show up in the feminine first. Only then are you able to tap into a special part of the brain known as the neocortex. We only have the capacity to tap into this part of the brain when we are not living in survival mode. In other words, when we are not surrounded by the chaos of overworking. The neocortex is where we access creativity, inspiration, downloads, and clarity. This is what happens when you hit a place of relaxation or theta brainwaves. So for an example, you're driving in the car or you're in the shower, you're not really thinking about anything, you're kind of slipping in and out of daydreams, and all of a sudden you have this great idea, or you find the solution to your problem, or you remember what was on your grocery list this morning when you were checking out and you forgot. These are all examples of being tapped into the neocortex. Through this practice of reclaiming your inner feminine power, you end up hearing what your intuition is guiding you to do. The aligned actions from your intuition tend to be simple and clear, as opposed to all of the steps that the masculine structure has told you you should do in order to be successful. Now, don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean that the actions are easy. They are simply easeful. There are not 1,000,001 things that you need to do right now if you want to have even a sliver of a chance of success. When you are incorporating the feminine, you are tapped back into this inner knowing. You make choices and you work in a way that is in alignment with your inner truth and desires. And in turn, this is where you're able to plan, execute, and receive it all with far more ease and far less work. So how do we do this? The first thing I want to share with you is the tool of energy management. What this means is you begin focusing more on how you are doing something rather than what you are doing. It doesn't mean that the what isn't important. It simply means that the emphasis is on the energy in which you are showing up to the task with. What this ends up doing is it takes away the proving energy of needing to do more and more unnecessary things potentially, and it brings you back to focusing on the process and the experience, which is where pleasure exists. This is also where you begin making the feminine feel safe again, where you lean into resting, listening, and connecting with yourself as a means of creating success. And of course, since this hasn't been validated up until this point, this first step here is to really rewire the beliefs around making the feminine feel safe for you, which is actually one of the purposes that you'll be walking away with from this talk. The second aligned action step to take here, and that I want you to take as you walk away today, is to lean into your intuition. It's one of those a little bit irritating things that are easier said than done, right? The one way to do this is to start focusing on the space within yourself that allows you to get grounded and that provides you with direction because it's already there. To then practice living with awareness so that you can listen to the cues and respond to what you feel called towards and excited about, and to respond to those things more often instead of what you feel like you should do or need to do in order to be successful. Again, coming back to yourself first, going internally before you start looking externally. I really want to encourage you to play with this here, to allow yourself to play and have fun, and let this be an experiment. If this is new for you, if you're not used to tapping into your intuition, if this feels weird, let go of needing to have any end results here and simply be in the practice of playing around with it, seeing how does this feel? What do I feel my intuition is guiding me to do today? How would it feel if we did this? And letting it really just be an experiment. The third and final piece I want to give you today is to surrender to the flow and trust the process. So basically practicing giving up control. The one thing that the feminine teaches us is that we don't need to have everything figured out. We just need to be open to taking the next step, even if it doesn't make 100% sense yet in this moment. The masculine wants a complicated and completed plan, which one, creates stress about needing to figure out every single step before you can even really know what the steps are because you're not there yet. And two, it keeps you feeling confined to a plan and unwilling to make adjustments because this is the structure that you have decided is going to work and you're going to stick it out. This is a tough one though, but one that you can reach through the process of managing your energy and leaning into using your intuition on a daily basis. I want to share one final story here because giving the feminine validity came easier to me when I saw proof and evidence of it working for other people. Because again, part of trusting the process is trusting that it is working for you even before you see the proof in your own life. There were two really big successes that came to me because I led with the feminine. The first happened when I was spending a few months living in Mexico. I was being asked to lean into the feminine and I was completely rejecting it. I was totally resisting and trying to control everything. After a series of unfortunate and also scary events, from getting my phone stolen to getting sick to having my Instagram business account be deactivated without warning to having a near drowning experience, I finally decided to say, screw it. I had truly hit my breaking point. I literally threw my hands up in the air, literally did this. And I was like, what do you want from me? What do you want me to do? So I fully decided in that moment I was going to let go and ask my intuition to guide me. I made a commitment that I would stop doing anything that wasn't necessary, that wasn't intuitively led, and I would solely follow my intuition. At that point, I really felt like I had nothing to lose, so I might as well just go for it and go all in. This was my experiment. Through that, I created and birthed one of my most successful online courses, Rest for Success. It was the easiest course creation and launch I had ever experienced. The key was I was in this rest and digest space, and I wasn't trying to fix the situation. which only would have kept me in a stress response mode. Therefore, I was actually open to receiving the creativity, the focus, and the flow in order to create, birth, and successfully launch this course. During this time, I also got a clear intuitive direction telling me to move to Copenhagen. Although this might seem random, this is something that I had been dreaming of since I was 18. Now I was getting this clear, yes, it is time, do it now feeling. My overanalyzing past self would have found all of the reasons to say no or to put it off until I was ready. Again, a new unknown situation that didn't feel safe. But because I had let go of needing to control everything and I was leaning into the feminine, the download came through and I was actually receptive to responding to it. I now live in Copenhagen in an apartment that I found by taking literally 2 actions. Something people told me I would struggle finding and would pay an outrageous amount for, neither of which are true. Because I was in my feminine, I was magnetic. I share this with you to show you how powerful it is to lead with the feminine first, why this is the game changer you've been searching for, and why I'm standing here sharing this with you today as the key to your new path to success. So to close things off, I'll leave you with this. I still have that postcard from that little shop in Scotland hanging on my wall today. It reminds me of what happens when I release my deep fear-based need to control and how my life expands when I surrender to trust and come back more and more again and again to my feminine power. It is a reminder that worthiness and success are an inside job, and that when we take that as truth, we stop searching externally for methods, benchmarks, and validation, and we begin trusting ourselves again to have the right answer. So what is our job in this revolution of reclaiming the feminine and reinstating this balance between the masculine and feminine in how we are working? Well, it's to come back to yourself, to bring your body back into the equation of how you are working and how you view yourself, your life, and your success holistically, to prioritize play and pleasure, to make rest and lack of chaos feel safe again, and to take action and tap into the powerful and healthy masculine from this place. This is where you tap into your deeper wisdom, where you appreciate just how powerful you truly are. This is where you become magnetic to the success that you want without sacrificing yourself for the grind. This is where you begin creating the new story that doing less actually allows you to receive and achieve more. Thank you.